Okay, I think that's enough. We're going to start our session. Okay, we have some few messages coming in from Ajit Tong. Yeah, I think that will be maybe later, maybe after the session. Ajit Tong. This from Selva. Selva, okay, permission to leave. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Selva. Basically, proceed with that. Sorry for your loss. So, welcome everyone once again for today's session. I think we're going to start our session from now. We have waited for this long 17 minutes, almost a half of the time. So, I welcome each one of you to this wonderful session that we're going to have presented by Brenta. So let's feel free to learn and also to interact in this session. And I hope everybody learn from this. So join me, welcome Brenda. Brenda, please, the floor is yours. You can start whenever you wish to start. Thank you.
Thanks, Samuel, and good afternoon, everyone. A thumbs up if you can hear me. Nice. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. I've seen that the number is quite lower than what is expected, but regardless, we're going to start with our session for today. I'm just going to put up my screen. Then I'll just please. So today we're going to cover personal resilience. Right. So today we're going to cover personal resilience. And before we talk about resilience, I want us to agree on something very important. That resilience is not about being strong all the time. It's not about having everything figured out. And it's not about smiling through pain. Resilience is about what happens after life has shaken you. So, because life will shake you, that's for sure, and it happens with everybody, and life will interrupt your plans, it will change your identity, it will stretch you in ways you did not prepare for. And most of us already have been there, but you're here today. Not because it has been easy for you, but because something in you keeps choosing to continue to go forward. And today is all about understanding that part of you that doesn't want to let go, that is always choosing to continue. And we want to learn how to strengthen that part, to strengthen it without breaking ourselves in the process. So I want to begin with some sort of reflection. Think about a challenge that you faced in your life, something that tested you emotionally, mentally, or physically, a personal challenge, right? Not something small, but something that really, really triggered you, something that was there for a long time. And think about this. What did that moment feel like in your body, in your thoughts, as well as in your emotion? How did it make you feel? Did you feel overwhelmed? Did you feel tired in a way a rest couldn't fix? And did you question yourself? Did you question the people around you? Did you question everything? Right? And think about all of those. And remember, when all of this is going on, you never gave up. You still continued going through. So resilience is often like it doesn't announce itself when it shows up. It shows up quietly in endurance, in patience, in survival. So whenever you're thinking about this, take your time to reflect through your life and the moments that have really, really, really pushed you to the edge. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I want to give up, right? Think about that. But as you do that, think about why you didn't give up at the end of the day, right? And this is just like a reflection. You don't need to share it here. It's just for your own reflection because I wanted you to understand resilience or personal resilience from that point that you are already resilient, the fact that you are here. So you can reflect on all those moments that have been there in your life and how you've been able to handle it throughout. So this session is not here to tell you to push harder, right? Because you are already carrying a lot of weight. Some of us have been carrying that for so long. But today, we basically want, through this session, to understand why some seasons drain you more than others. We also want to understand why certain challenges hit deeper than others and how to rebuild yourself without abandoning yourself. And resilience is not about becoming emotionally tough. It's about becoming emotionally wise. It is learning how to hold pain, how to grow with the pain, how to rest and hope without losing your sense of self in this entire process. So that is the intention for today's session. So I had a couple of objectives for you that at the end of today's session, I don't want you to walk away with definition like what is resilience, no. But I want you to walk away with recognition, to recognize where you are resilient, where you are depleted, and where what you need, right? Not judgment, but what needs attention in your life. Resilience is not something you either have or don't have, right? It is something that you build. You build it slowly, you build it intentionally, as well as compassionately, right? So that is the objective for all of this. Now, let's take about this example, right? You face a serious setback. It could be a rejection, it could be a loss, it could be any moment where things don't work out just for you. At first, you feel a lot of pain because it hurts, obviously. You feel disappointed. You feel unsure. You may even think about giving up at that moment. But then at some point, something shifts, right? It doesn't shift immediately, right? But something shifts at some point, right? You pause, you adjust, you learn, and you still continue, right? That moment when you don't when you don't let the setback define the end of your story, that is what we call resilience. Resilience is not about avoiding the pain. It's about refusing to let that pain decide who you become. Resilience is not never feeling pain, because everybody feels pain at some point. It's never about never struggling, because everybody will struggle at some point. And also, it's not about not being strong. I mean, like always being strong. When we talk about resilience, we don't say, oh, you have to be strong or tough all the time. No, that is not resilience, because everybody is not strong all the time. At some point, there is something that can break you, right? So, personal resilience is the ability for you to bounce back. That time when you pause, right, to adjust, to learn, right, to change your strategies and then start again. Keep fighting until you get the outcome that you want. That is resilience. That is your ability to bounce back after difficult times. And when you're doing that, you're able to change a lot of things, your mindset, the strategies that you need. But most importantly, you keep moving forward despite the challenge that you find yourself in. And that is what we refer to as personal resilience. Most people often misunderstand resilience. It doesn't always look very impressive. And sometimes it looks like resting instead of quitting, and asking for help instead of isolating, right? And changing direction instead of forcing something that no longer fits, right? So resilience is not about proving strength, it's about practicing self-respect, right? So the resilience circle looks like: first, you feel the weight of something, a challenge, right? You're not ignoring that weight, you feel that pain, right? And then you go ahead to fail, you pause, and you choose to rise again. And then once you choose to rise, you adjust your approach, you adjust how you look at life, you adjust how you approach that particular issue, right? And something changes, right? Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and you repeat this circle again, right? But most importantly, you continue moving forward, even when there is fear, even when there is uncertainty. You're not sure of the end results, but you keep going forward. So resilience is not about perfection, it's progress, it's persistence and self-compassion, looking at yourself with compassion. Why resilience matters? Life will always bring about stress. Things will change. There will be disappointments in your life, a lot of uncertainties, and all of those. And without resilience, these experiences accumulate, right? And there's a lot of stress. Stress becomes chronic. And you know, when somebody has a chronic stress, there are a lot of health issues that is associated with that. Talk about high blood pressure and the likes. So when there's a lot of stress, that is accumulated over time, it has serious implication in terms of our health. And then we lose motivation because we feel like there's no more reason for us to continue this. There's no more reason for us to keep moving forward, right? And some small setbacks feel heavier than they should. Even with the simplest thing, you feel like giving up because you don't have resilience. So, resilience matters because it allows you to move through difficulties. Whatever happens in your life, it will get you to move through that, right? And that's why it is very important. That's why it matters. Instead of being stuck in that pain, instead of being stuck in that situation, in that place of rejection, of stress, of uncertainty, of disappointment, resilience will allow you to move through it, right? And it helps you to stay connected to yourself, even when life feels so overwhelming. And that is why we talk about resilience today. Resilience protects your mental and emotional well being. When we talk about physical resilience, we talk about the ability to manage our energy and strength during demanding periods, right? So we are in this position and we want to be able to, at the end of the day, recover from fatigue, illness, or stress. But for us to be able to do that effectively, we need to be in a position where we are able to manage uh, our physical resilience. So physically resilient people prioritize a lot of rest, sleep, and recovery. They also pay attention to their body signals, right? Your body is able to tell you, oh yeah, pause here and I'm tired and I want to rest. So if you're physically resilient, you'll be able to understand your body and be able to take that rest that you deserve. You're also in position to understand that a strong body supports a strong mind. So if you're not, your body is not so strong, you are not able to be very strong with the mind. So physical resilience is the foundation that sustains everything else. I mean, all other aspects of resilience. So just to mention that resilience is, when you talk about resilience, it's not one dimensional, right? You may be emotionally strong but physically exhausted. You may be mentally sharp but socially isolated. And that doesn't mean that you are failing. It means that the different parts of you, the different parts of yourself, of your body, you need different kinds of care. That's why we talk about the dimensions in terms of resilience, right? So when you talk about emotional resilience, we look at it as the relationship with your feelings, right? It's not about suppressing your emotions. It's not about ignoring what you're feeling, but allowing emotions to pass through you, regardless of the type of emotion, whether it is fear, whether it is anger, whatever emotions, but you allow it to pass through you without letting them control you, control your behavior, control your decisions. And you realize that people who are emotionally resilient, they don't let their emotions control their actions. They're able to pause and reflect before they act or react. They allow themselves time to heal and rest, right? So that is what emotional resilience is. Then we have mental resilience. So mental resilience is about how you think, right? So it's the ability for you to reframe setbacks, to adapt when things change, when your plans change, right? The focus is on what you can control, even when much is uncertain, right? So most of us, like, the first thing that comes to our mind is, yeah, like the negative aspects. We don't focus on what we can control. Again, if we plan something and things change in between, we feel like, oh, we become frustrated, we give up and all that. But for us to be mentally resilient, we need to be able to have the ability to reframe the setbacks, to look at the positive side, um, in the situation, in the circumstance, whatever situation you're finding yourself is, look at it and ask yourself, okay, what is this trying to teach me? What am I learning from this? And how can I refine or change my strategies or my plans so that at the end of the day, I'm able to achieve what I'm supposed to achieve, right? So the intention is for you to focus on only what you can control, not what you can't. Because if you pay attention to everything that is happening around you that you cannot directly control, it will drain you mentally, right? So mental resilience strengthens clarity, and it helps you to make better decisions and helps you to remain persistent despite the challenges that you are going through. And then, right, we have social resilience. So when we talk about social resilience, and what is important for us to remember is that resilience is a journey that was never meant to be a solo journey, right? And we did say that you can't say I have resilience or I don't have. You can't say that because you build it, right? And it's a continuous process because you can't um, deal with a situation today in the same way that you will deal with a situation tomorrow that has not yet happened. That's why you constantly build resilience through everyday challenges, things that you go through in your life. You build resilience over time, right? And throughout this journey, you are supposed to have social connection. So the social resilience is the courage to say, I don't have to do this alone, right? And as a person, you live in a community, right? You have your social networks, right? So the social resilience is the ability for you to say, yeah, I don't have to go through this alone. I have so and so and so and so to count on. I have these people to support me through this challenge, right? And that is what social resilience is all about. It's asking for support when needed. Not that, oh, I'm struggling through this. I think I don't have anybody. And, like, no, you ask for the support when you need it, receiving the help that you need when you need it, and also allowing for connections, right? So social resilience is able to strengthen and multiplies when it is shared because that is strength. You are able to draw a lot of strength from your community, from your connection. Because at the end of the day, if you don't get that kind of support, it can be draining for you as a person. But if you're able to get support from your network, you find some sense of motivation, some sense of purpose, because yes, there are people that you can lean on, right? Without having to feel ashamed or guilt or anything. You are sure that they're there to support you, right? So those are the dimensions in terms of resilience. So resilience is not a single action, it's a process, as I mentioned before. And normally something happens to you like an adversity or a challenge, right? That's where it starts. So if you experience a setback, there is a stressing factor in your life, could be a failure, a disappointment, anything or not at all. That's an adversity. It happens to you. Then there's your emotional reaction, right? So the emotional reaction are feelings such as the stress, fear, frustration, or sadness. Those are your emotional reactions. So whenever you experience that challenge, the next thing is the emotional reactions. And then after the emotional reaction, of course, the coping choices, right? So you feel stressed, you feel fear, you feel frustrated, you're sad. The next thing you do is the coping choices. Like, how do I respond to this issue, right? There are those that are very healthy where you are in a place where you can say, all right, this has happened. What can I do about it? Who can I ask for help and all of that? And two, unhealthy strategies. So unhealthy strategies are those ones that people resort to thinking that, yeah, it is the only way out, like going to take alcohol, smoking, attempting suicide, and all of those. Those are unhealthy strategies. They feel like at that point, like they are making a choice to cope with the situation they have, but they are unhealthy strategies. So what we opt for is the healthy strategy. How can I cope with the challenge that I am going through? So when you pick the healthy strategies, you are able to adapt and grow because you are able to learn from this challenge. You are able to adjust your strategies, right? You're able to change whatever challenge that you find yourself in. You've learned from it. Maybe you did some things the wrong way, so you have to learn and then you change, right? And you grow from there because all of this is to help you to learn and grow from. So every challenge you face becomes a part of your growth story. So that's how the resilience circle look like. It's not a single action, and it is a process that will be repeated. Even in a single day, you'll find yourself going through this circle like over 10 times because you go through a number of things in a typical day. In the morning hours, you may fight in the office, in the afternoon, in the evening, you're fighting in the house, at home, with the family, whatever. So you'll find yourself repeating this circle more than once, even in a typical day. But what's important for us to remember is that whenever we find ourselves in this kind of circle, we have to always choose the healthy coping strategies for us to be able to manage. Right. So we talk about emotional reactions, and most of the challenge arise from us hiding our emotions. I know as Africans, we normally say for the men, right, that you raise your kid and be telling them like men don't cry, men don't show emotions, men don't do that. Those social paradigms are the ones that enable us to hide our emotions, to make us feel like us showing emotional reactions are abnormal, are not welcomed, right? And that is the societal norm, right? But we're here to tell you today that these emotion reactions are very normal. The feeling of being stressed, feeling of being pressured, feeling of fear, uncertainty, being angry or frustrated, the feeling of sadness or disappointment or self doubt. All of these emotions are very, very normal. They they do not mean that you're weak, just like the society wants you to believe. No, they do not mean that you're failing, right? When you're afraid, when you're stressed, when you're unsure about things, it doesn't mean you're failing. It's part of who you are. It's part of being human, right? And resilience does not begin by suppressing these emotions. And most of the mental health issues that we have emerge from us suppressing these emotions. When you are afraid, when you're stressed, when you're angry and frustrated, you bottle all these emotions inside. You don't let it out. When we say let it out, you let it out using the healthy coping strategies, right? But we don't let it out. We keep it inside, and then it begins showing up in a more negative way in our life. And that's why we have a lot of mental or illness issues, particularly for South Sudan's case, because most of the times we bottle in a lot of the emotions without showing them, right? So first of all, we need to begin by acknowledging some of these emotions, that they're there, they're healthy, and they're part of who we are, part of being human, right? And then we choose healthier responses, healthier strategies on how we can communicate these feelings, right? And whatever you feel is not the problem. When you ignore it, that's where the problem is, because the time it blows in your face, it will be terrible for you and everybody that is there around you. That's why you hear a lot of homicide issues. You hear people just by anger reacting terribly, beating somebody and all that, because they might have bottled in their emotions for a long time, and now it's just blowing up in people's faces, right? So it's good for you to understand that your feelings, your emotions are normal, and it's only right that as a human being, you are able to solve these emotions out. Right. Great. So resilience stands on four key pillars, and when one pillar weakens, it becomes hard for the other parts, right? The other part will feel heavy, and resilience become like a heavy weight that you're carrying around. But when all the four parts are nurtured, when you nurture all the four parts, then resilience becomes something that you can sustain over a long period of time and be able to take you through life's challenges. So the four pillars of resilience are the self-awareness, the self-regulation, optimism, and the social support. And together, these pillars will be in a position to help you to recover from adversities, to adapt, and also to continue life through these challenges. So we are going to cover each one of them one by one and just say, right. So self-awareness is the first pillar when we talk about resilience. And when we talk about self-awareness, we look at self-awareness as the ability for you to be able to know and understand your own emotion. When you are aware of your own emotions, you know, when I'm angry, I know it. When I'm sad, I know it. When I'm happy, I know it, right? You know your emotions. You notice your emotions. You are aware they're there. You know how you're feeling at any one point in time, right? And you are also able to understand what triggers you. What are some of these things that when it happens makes you sad, makes you afraid, right? Um, Annoys you, makes you angry, and all of those. So you're able to understand and point out your triggers, right? And then you're also in a place where you're able to recognize your limits before burnout sets in. So what we mean by that is that you know at what point you can say I'm done enough and you can't continue up to that point, right? So all of those is what we call self-awareness. And it's very important for you to be resilient, to be able to be self-aware. Because if you're self-aware, you already know that these are the emotions that you are currently feeling and what is probably causing them, right? And then you can be able to deal with that trigger, right? So If you're self-aware, you're able to pay attention to how situations affect you because you already know that these are the things that triggers you. So you pay attention to every situation, and you know the moment somebody starts to do something, you know that if they continue, it will annoy you, it will anger you. So you know it. And then you acknowledge your emotions without judgment, right? This is you, this is how you feel about something. So you are not saying, oh, yeah, this is bad and all that. You acknowledge your emotions and you know when to pause, rest, or ask for help because you understand what your needs are. So that's self awareness. And then the next one is in self regulation. So we said self awareness is when we know our own emotions, right? And then when we talk about self regulation, is how we manage the emotions, right? Particularly in stressful situations, right? So imagine you are feeling so angry about something, right? But for you to be able to manage that anger and not to hurt somebody, not to throw things around, not to vent your anger just about anywhere, right? That is self regulation. You're able to control your impulses and control your emotional reactions towards anybody, anything you are surrounding, and all that, right? When you are responding thoughtfully. You are responding because you thought about everything, right? With a clear mind. You've already cooled off and all that. You get that is self-regulation. So being aware about your emotion is one thing, but how you respond or act on your emotion, that's something else. And that is what we call self-regulation. And for you to be resilient, self-regulation also forms an important aspect or a core pillar because you have to be in a position where you use very healthy coping strategies for you to manage that emotion that you are feeling at that time. Then another pillar of resilience is optimism. Now, when we talk about optimism, we looked at optimism in terms of maintaining hope during difficult times, right? So you have your emotion, you're angry about something, and then you've been able to manage your anger, right? But you've not given up. You are still looking at the positive side of this situation, right? And that is what we call optimism. Like you believe that the challenge that you're going through is temporary, it's manageable. You are looking at the positive in this challenge, right? You're looking at the possibilities in this challenge and not only the problem itself. That is optimism. So, in every situation that you go through in your life, you should be able to put yourself in a position where you maintain hope. Because the moment you lose hope is the moment you lose self-regulation. And that's why we have people who've committed suicide before because they've lost hope. They were in a place where they felt like I have nothing else to do anymore. Like there's no way out of here other than this, right? And that is a dangerous place to be, right? We must be in a position where we have hope. We believe that whatever it is that is going on, whatever challenge that we are experiencing, is temporary. It's going to pass, right? Look at all the things you've been able to overcome in your life, how far you've come, the journey that you had to trek, sometimes even by yourself. If you've been able to pass through all of those, what about this one, right? What about now? What about the challenge that you're facing now? It will pass. It is temporary. It's manageable. And there's always a positive inside of that problem. You just have to look from a different perspective. If you don't see it, get somebody else to see it for you. But there's always a positive side in all situations. And then another core pillar, and the last one, is the social support. Now, we looked at social support earlier on in terms of the dimensions, but again, social support also forms a pillar of resilience. So, as a human being, we thrive through social systems. And for you to be resilient, you should be able to build and maintain meaningful relationship. When we talk about having meaningful relationship, these are relationships that you can count on, right? These are connections or people that you know whenever you are in any situation, they are always there to lend hand, to help you, right? And you do same, yeah, because through this relationship, you are able to help each other to get out of this situation, right? And you're not ashamed to tell these people that this is what I'm going through. Can you help me, right? You're not ashamed to share your problem. You don't feel guilty to share your problem with them. Those are the meaningful relationships, and that is your social support. Now, for you to be resilient, you need that social support, right? You need that social support so that you do not face your challenges alone, because it can be very overwhelming. But if you have a connection, you are able to draw energy, to draw support, right? To draw comfort and to draw motivation from this connection for you to keep hope and keep going forward. These people can be able to give you new perspectives, can be able to help you look at your challenge from a different angle and always look at the brighter side in all the situation. So always ensure that you have social support, meaningful relationship in your life, right? Right. So those are the core pillars when we talk about resilience. Resilience grow where awareness meets action and connection. Now, there are a number of myths about resilience, some of which I've mentioned earlier before. For instance, you'd hear people say, oh, resilient people, they never struggle, right? Everybody is actually resilient, right? You just have to build it because it's there, it's inside of you. And there's nothing like resilient people never struggle, because the truth is everyone struggles, right? And resilience is about how you respond to your own struggles, how you respond to your own situation. So there's nothing like resilient people never struggle. And the second one is that resilience means being tough all the time. No, because sometimes resilience basically means that you just need to go take a nap and then wake up and look at this from a fresh eye, right? It's about flexibility, it's about self care, right? So you don't have to be tough all the time to be called resilient. No. And three, you are either born resilient or not. Resilience can be learned and strengthened over time. And mostly we would like to think that everybody is resilient. The, the difference is on how you strengthen it. Some people go a step further to strengthen their level of resilience, but others don't, because they do not understand that they are already resilient the way they are. So it's very important for us to understand some of these things so that we are able to remove unnecessary expectations about us, about how we face the challenges, because, right, they can be very misleading most of the time. Right. So there are a number of barriers that can weaken your ability to bounce back. So we did say that resilience is your ability to bounce back from these setbacks, from these challenges and all of those. So there are a number of things that can stop you, right? That can limit you from bouncing back from these challenges that are going on in your life. And one of it is the negative self-talk, right? When you are the first person to tell yourself that I can't, or I'm not good at that, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. When you give yourself a lot of negative self-talk, it will be very difficult for you to bounce back from challenges because you already see that it is not possible at this point. So you will not do anything about it. So that is one thing that can limit your ability to bounce back. And then number two is the lack of support. So when you're trying to face everything alone by yourself, it can be draining, right? So that alone can also be a factor that could limit your ability to bounce back. And then chronic stress and burnout, right? When you're constantly overwhelmed without rest or recovery, that can limit your ability to bounce back because stress, we say, takes a toll on people, right? It can lead to serious burnout. So you need to be in a position where you are able to understand yourself. You know how your body reacts and when you need to take a rest so that you are able to have enough fresh energy to face whatever challenge that it is that you're going to go through. And then another barrier is the fear of failure or change. So most times before we even try, we say no because we are basically just try, right? We just say no, like because we are unsure or we don't know what is going to come with that situation. We are afraid of failure, like we're afraid people will laugh at us and say, oh yeah, you didn't even make it, right? Because of that kind of fear, we avoid the challenges because we want to protect ourselves from discomfort. And this can also limit our ability to bounce back from adversities or from the challenges that we're going through now. And then we have rigid thinking, right? There are people who are very, very difficult. I'm sure you might have heard someone say, that person is so difficult, right? Now, when you hear somebody being termed as a difficult person, meaning that person doesn't want um, to change, right? They are not flexible. They don't adapt easily to anything, right? That they always want things to go a certain way. They are so rigid. They don't want change, right? And so if you're somebody who is rigid, who doesn't want to adapt, so it limits your ability to bounce back because resilience, we say, it requires you to be flexible, that whenever things don't work, I must take another route because at the end of the day, what's important is for me to get to my destination. But if you're too rigid to even think about changing an alternative route, then it would be very hard for you to bounce back from that challenge. Another barrier is perfectionism. So a perfectionist is somebody who like things perfect, right? They don't like failure. They don't want to be associated with failure, right? That failure for them is not an option. They must succeed all the time, always in everything, right? So if something that is about to bring any element of failure, they become paralyzed, right? They become paralyzed. They can't take action. They can't do anything, right? Because for them, having the perfect result, that's everything, right? And so if you are in a situation where getting the perfect result is not an option, then you obviously want to move forward because you feel like, okay, I can't have perfect, I don't do again, right? You just give up easily, right? And that's how you lose your chance to resilience because you're quitting even before you even try. And then we talked about resting, right? Uh, Ignoring your body, right? Sometimes we become exhausted with the things that we do, our daily activities, everyday life, right? But we don't think about a rest, right? Because rest is necessary. It's not laziness, right? After a long day of work, you should be able to comfortably rest, right? But most of the times we ignore this rest. And when our body becomes too exhausted, sorry, just a moment. Sorry, guys. My neighbor was driving out, so there's a bit of noise. Um, Right. Here we are. So I was talking about ignoring rest, and we do a number of activities. And so it's important for us to ensure that we are resting so that we are able to maintain our energy levels for whatever it is that may come through. Because if we are not strong enough, if we are not well rested, we may be too exhausted to continue pushing through some of these challenges that we experience. And then the last one is avoiding our emotions, right? The more you suppress your feelings, it is limiting your ability to bounce back because you are not processing them, right? What is only right for you to do is to what you're feeling, to acknowledge your emotion at that time, and then get yourself through it. If you're angry, acknowledge that I'm angry and go and deal with that anger. But if you don't acknowledge it, if you basically suppress it, it will limit your ability to bounce back. So these barriers don't mean something is wrong with you. When you are when you're a perfectionist, when you are rigid in thinking, when you ignore it, avoid emotions and all of those, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. They are signals that resilience needs attention. And what you're going to do is basically to go and define strategies on how you can, on what you can do on daily basis to enhance your level of resilience. And that's what we have here. So, what can we do to be able to build a level of resilience, right? And resilience can be strengthened through intentional daily practices, right? And the first thing that works for me as well is to reframe challenges, right? The moment you go through any challenge, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Instead of, why me? Why is this thing happening to me? Am I the only person? Then you start cursing everybody, right? So instead of why this thing is happening to me, ask like, what can I learn from this, right? And that way you are able to see already the positivity in terms of the challenge that you're having. And then practice gratification, right? Gratification is about being grateful for things that are already in your life, right? You focus on what is working, not only what is wrong or what is not working. You focus on what is working. So you practice gratification. You can do this daily, right? And you also have to strengthen your problem solving skills, right? Sometimes you look at a problem and then it seems so big, it seems so impossible for you to be able to manage, right? But you can always look and see how you can manage this, right? Break it down into smaller pieces, right? That way you are able to see that, okay, yeah, when I start with the smaller parts, I think I can be able to manage. And before you know it, you are able to accomplish and manage this throughout. So your resilience grows through consistent and small actions, right? And you have to do this through daily habits. And on daily basis, ensure that you take care of your body, find enough rest, sleep enough, move a lot, right? Do some movement, do some exercise, right? And when you're practicing your gratification, you can do this by creating space for reflection and emotional processing. And what you can do is like at the end of the day, what I normally do is that I sit down to reflect every day, right? In the evening, you reflect about the day. What has worked? What has not worked? What would I have done differently? What can I do tomorrow better to improve the results that I'm seeing and all of those, right? And then also try and stay connected to your network. That is the social support that we talked about, right? And revisit your purpose during difficult times, right? And as a human being, you should be in a position where you are now clearly able to articulate your purpose as a person. As a person, what is it that you want? What is your purpose? What are you living for? That is your purpose. And whenever you find yourself in a difficult situation, revisit that purpose. Ask yourself, does this really go beyond my purpose? Right? Ask yourself that question. Sometimes some things happen and they're just so minor, but we make it so big to the extent that it limits our ability to achieve the things that we want to achieve. We give it so much attention that it becomes so big, right? It takes all our energy, right? So practice some of these daily habits, and that is the foundation for long-term resilience because hey, resilience we say is not one off. You have to do it daily for you to be able to build that kind of habit over time. Now, we can't talk about resilience without ever mentioning emotional intelligence. I'm sure you've already covered an entire session about emotional intelligence, right? And if you are in a position where you are able to understand your own emotions, you are able to manage how you express your emotions, respond to those emotions, and then how you're able to recognize other people's emotions and how your own emotions affect theirs, then we say you are emotional intelligence, because it's all about awareness, which we talked about in terms of self-awareness, control, which we talked about in terms of self-regulation, and connection, which we talk about in terms of the social network. So when you're emotionally intelligent, it strengthens your resilience. You get. So it helps you to be able to recognize stress and emotional triggers earlier on before it can escalate beyond what you can manage. It also helps you to regulate emotional reactions during depression, and all of those we talked about under self-regulation, right? And it also helps you to stay motivated despite the setback that you are going through. And it also helps you to show empathy because you have the social network and you build this supportive relationship. So through this relationship, you are able to build and show empathy. So when emotional intelligence is very strong, resilience becomes easier to practice and sustain. Just about the same. Now, some of the practical tools that I use myself that you can use. Um, they are very simple tools, but very powerful, right? You can try some of these to strengthen your level of resilience. The first one is the pause technique. And whenever you find yourself in a difficult situation, you stop, take a deep breath, think about that particular situation before reacting, right? That's the pause technique. And then the three gratifications a day. Write down three things you are grateful for, right? That helps you keep a positive mindset and not to focus on only the negative sides, things that you can't control. Right? So write down three things every day that I'm grateful for this, that, and that, right? It helps maintain positivity in your mind. And then support mapping. Identify people you can lean on during this stressful situation. That is support mapping. So it helps you to build a meaningful source of relationship. And then energy check, right? Ask yourself, what is draining me? What is fueling me, right? So in a typical day, you should be able to check your energy level. What is draining you? Like these are the things that stress you, take away your energy, frustrates you, annoys you, and all of those. And what is fueling you? The fueling is things that give you energy, motivate you, once things that get you to push harder, to want to continue, right? To so that you don't stop, right? And those are things that fuel you. So you should be able to do this kind of energy check with yourself so that you're able to understand yourself better. So some of these tools, you have to pick the ones that you feel can work with you. They are very simple, but you have to apply them consistently if you want to be able to see some difference on how you can be able to strengthen your resilience levels. Right. We looked at resilience and we agreed on why it matters, why it's important, right? And some of the long-term benefits, if you are able to strengthen your resilience level now, in the long run, you will have stronger mental and emotional well-being. We've looked at how resilience is connected to mental health issues. We know how stressful situations have led people to go mad and all of that. Those are mental health issues, right? But if you're able to strengthen your resilience level, you're able to maintain stronger mental and emotional well-being. And you have greater ability to handle change and uncertainty. Whatever life throws at you, you have a greater ability to handle it. And then you are able to also build more healthier and more supportive relationships. And then in the long run, you're able to remain more focused, more adaptable, and focus on problem solving rather than looking at the problem itself, right? And lastly, of course, a deeper sense of purpose and life satisfaction because, hey, you know what you want, you know what you have to do as a person to get you to achieve those goals, those dreams that you want to achieve. You understand your purpose as a person. So, whatever it is that life puts in your path, you are more strengthened to go through it. That's why we talk about resilience, and that's why it is very important and the associated benefits that comes with it. So as we walk away today from this session, I need you to remember these key things, right? Resilience is the ability for you to rise, adapt, and continue, right? Despite the challenges that you go through in your life. Resilience is not about avoiding difficulty because we can't avoid it as being human beings, right? It's more about learning how to recover from these difficulties and then grow from that point, right? Resilience is about how you're able to build through self-awareness, through self-regulation, optimism, and just social support, right? And there are a number of things that could stop you from being resilient, like the negative self-talk, the fear, and all of those. But if you do small intentional practices every day, those can significantly strengthen your resilience level. So resilience is a skill and it can be developed for everybody. Resilience is not about never failing because all of us fail at some point. It's about rising each time you fall because you will fall 100 times, right? But it's about the ability to rise after every fall. And you already have this resilience within you, right? And this session is basically the invitation for you to strengthen it intentionally and consistently. Right. That's everything that I had to cover today. Right. Yeah. And we'll go back and stop sharing my screen. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, any comments, and all of those, please, you're welcome. I'll grab a glass of water and just be here. Over to you, Samuel.
Okay, thank you so much, Brenda, for such an insightful presentation. I hope you guys learned something from this rather the presentation. So I think we have enough time for us also to share our ideas from what we've learned, and also for questions. You, if you can be able to speak over the mic, you can also send in the chat, or if you're able to speak, then you can put up your hand. And I will grant you the chance. If there's anything you want to know or you want to add. I'm going to proceed the assignment in the chat. You can also fill out as we continue with the Q&A session. Okay, I can see one hand already up from that's Ajit. Ajit, your hands up, please. You can unmute the mic.
Yeah,
Ajit
thank
Tong,
you.
please
Yeah,
continue.
I've seen my network is not full. I don't know if maybe it is breaking there. Maybe let me know because I've seen it. The bar for the network are not all not this
It's okay.
are not full. I think you can hear me, right?
You're loud and clear, please. You're
Okay,
loud and
thank you.
clear.
Yeah, I would like to just put some remarks. I'm thankful for the today's session. First of all, resilience has personal resilience. We actually in various ways we have each faced it in our own ways throughout the life, maybe throughout the entire life that we have already lived, and this is a testimony that today is because we have overcome all our obstacles and challenges, but we refuse to give up, and then we also refuse to allow those challenges and obstacles to decide our fate in dealing with the life. It is because of that we are here today to attend this personal resilience session. I'm really thankful because all this sometimes we run short of actually exploiting them and understand them and use them as our own tools for personal discovery and for personal support as well as for personal development. And because of sessions like this, we are able to realize our tools that we are actually supposed to acquire, and we use them in our daily life. So I'm really grateful, and that is the little thing I would like to put.
Okay, thank you so much, Ajit, for for you sharing that with us. So we can still be sending in our questions in the chat, and also you can be able to speak over the mic. You can also put up your hand. Today I can see that attendance is really low. Many people did not make it to the session, but others who reached out with their circumstance that made them not to attend the sessions. But other people did not even give a hint about the absence. So we still have more time. Let's bring in our questions, our inputs, and also what we have learned from today's session. You can also be sharing that with us, please. And also don't forget to fill in the attendance. I already it's in the chat. You can fill it out, please.
Right. As I just want to believe that the session was productive and helpful for all of us, at least for those who've managed to attend. And I don't know how many of us were here when we did the orientation on our first day when we started the cohort. I did mention that we make personal sacrifices, and to see that people don't take this session seriously is very frustrating. Whatever reason that somebody may have for not attending should be communicated. At least that way somebody knows that someone is not attending for one or two reasons that are very important, right? Because we make a lot of effort to put these materials together so that we can share it with you guys. And the intention is for you guys to be able to use some of these tools, right? And put them in use in your daily life. Right? But I think from this level of participation, it's clear that only a few people take it seriously upon themselves to actually participate in these 5 sessions. So, yes, William, your hands up. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say that the session is important. Like you asked that some people are not taking it serious. I think maybe it's because of the time and they are engaged doing something. Especially maybe sometime someone is caught up at workplace. Like me, one of the people who is always caught up with, at workplace, but I always try to join. Today I joined late because the network was difficult for me. I used Zen, but Zen today, airtime can be sent. I don't know what's the issue with it. And then I try M10. M10 had some issues with me before I joined. And I think this one is benefiting a lot. Is benefiting, and I have learned a lot myself. So thank you so much, and I want us to continue like that. And also my fellow uh, my fellows can also try to give their time. Thank you.
Thanks for the feedback. And just like you've said, you can be busy and still make time to attend. You remember on the application, we indicated the time for you to dedicate, and everybody said, oh, yeah, I will make time, I will be available, right? The only thing for you that can take you away from this session are things that came up, things that happened accidentally, not planned, right? Like your employment. You do know that maybe you have a job that goes up to Saturday and Sundays at this time, right? So there was actually no reason for you to commit when you knew that you will be taken up by employment, right? That's why we needed people who can dedicate 2 hours of their time every Saturday and Sunday. Now, in your case, you are able to actually come online despite the fact that you have work, meaning that is some level of commitment on your part, right? But I'm talking about people who don't think it's even necessary to communicate their absence, right? We could have also chosen not to show up and say, okay, that's it. Let's not do it, right? But what about helping people? What about support, right? Some of these things you will never hear people talk about them in your classrooms because, yeah, they are not part of the curriculum, right? But we want to be able to make provisions for what is it that you can learn beyond the classroom that can help build you as a person. And that's what we're trying to give. And if it's not taken seriously, if there's no feedback in terms of whether or not people are learning something, people are actually benefiting from something, it becomes exhausting. And then the whole idea of, oh, yeah, I want to support, I want to give back, I want to see as many people be self aware, be more resilient, and all of those will lose sense because, yeah, we don't take it seriously. I don't know how many of us are from the health sector, but I understand in South Sudan alone, the, the service gap in terms of mental health is at 99%. What does that mean? Right? What does that mean? Only 1% of the entire South Sudan get information or treatment on issues to do with mental health, resilience, right? On how you can be strong despite the things that you go through. By statistics alone, what is our current suicide rate? Very high, if not the highest around the globe. But when we gather to talk about these things that are happening to you, right, must not take you to a place where you can think about making your own life. We don't take it seriously, right? We are supposed to be people who've tended the season and be able to talk about the same thing to our family members, pass the message on to your networks, to the people who are around you, right? That there's always something better. There's always a way out. And this challenge that we're going through is temporary, it's not permanent, that we can make it through this, right? But then we don't take it seriously. We feel like, oh yeah, maybe I'll just come back later, maybe watch, go through the slides. I don't read the slide by slide. None of the presenters do. So you talk a lot here, but the slide is limited, except maybe you go rewatch the entire program. But then again, what's the essence, right? If you cannot have live conversation with the participant in terms of what have you learned? What questions do you have? What things have been there confusing your mind when you talk about resilience, right? You're supposed to have physical discussions like this with the participants so that you're able to clear your doubts. And that element is missing throughout. Whenever you check participant list, it's low, it's low, it's low. And I think there's basically no justification, but hey, we still continue to work with right people who really want to learn and build their best selves. Samuel, if you don't have anything else, I'd like to complete by going over the assignment slide and then just end.
Okay, thank you so much, Brenda. I just want to also share my understanding and also, I've learned from the session, and it's really, it was insightful. And, when we talk of personal resilience, like it's always the ability. Let's take it something like the ability of you maybe to stay strong and to stay calm and positive when facing any difficulties, as you stated earlier, in current situation that we are in our country, people are stressed. Also we face the circumstances of failures, trying to do businesses, trying to run around, and nothing seems to be changing. So for us to at least, have personal resilience, we should really need to adapt to circumstances, and also try to recover from what we learn. Sometimes they say we learn from what we experienced already. And for us also to be keeping moving forward after every challenge in life. So instead of breaking down when problems happen, a resilient person learns from a situation, and it becomes better because of what of something that you already on it. You see. So resilient in life, it's just about bouncing back after setups, and also you need to manage your emotion, because if you manage your emotion, it will really make you calm and also under pressure, in everything that you will do. If you control your emotion, that's why we learned about uh, intelligence, emotional intelligence, on how you should really control your emotion and also act in case when you're under pressure. You see, so staying motivated even during hard times, and also you get to adapt to change without giving up all the time. You see. So let me give you just as another analogy. Yes, for instance, sometimes like, you can fail exams, right? We sometimes you fail a subject, but the resilience is not quitting. You will not quit. But what you will do is for you to review, your mistakes, and also you see on what you should really improved on. But it's a study that maybe you should plan on, or maybe you should try to at least be confident. Sometimes we panic around when exams are almost closed. You know, And also, it seems to be like we're not prepared for exams. We panicked all around and we lost the confidence, you see. So resilience it's really important. It helps us to handle stress and health way, you see, and also it helps us also to make a better decision because if we are calm and confident, we will be able to make a better decision rather, you know, and it will also help us to stay focused on our goals, the long term and the short term goals, and that's how life is. We all focused on goals that we would really wish to achieve one day. That's why we want to at least build our vessel for us to be somebody one day. Okay. And it can also maintain. It help us to also be maintaining the positive relationship within even our current status. For instance, at your workplace, at school, even within the community. Okay. So if we stay calm, if we stay confident, and or without distress or anything that maybe might lead us to say things that maybe to be overcome under pressure with things. You see. I would say it's really wonderful, and I've really learned from this session, and I really hope that everyone will also pick something from this session. So I would say like life is really unpredictable, and resilience prepare you to face challenges without losing directions. So let's build our best self. We are almost there to the journey. So thank you so much for listening. And I think if there's nothing else, I'm going to give it back to hand it over to Brenda, maybe to walk you through the assignment, and maybe I will come and answer some of your questions. I think there were two questions. I think I will handle that maybe after Brenda's take you through the assignment. So over to you, Brenda.
Thank you, Samo. So this is a reflective assignment. It doesn't look like those other assignments. So you basically have to reflect on a recent challenge that you experienced. And when you are doing this reflection, try and answer some of these questions, right? What was the challenge that you're reflecting on or you experienced? So you describe that, and then you describe how you responded to that challenge at that time. So your response could be an emotional response or a practical or physical response, whether you were angry and decided to punch somebody or something. So you describe how you responded at that time to that particular challenge. And then you also tell me what type of resilience was tested. So we talked about the types of resilience. So you have to tell me which was tested most during that particular challenge. And then, now that you've learned about a lot of things in terms of resilience, what would you do differently next time? And that's